The painting you are looking at right now was created around the year 1508, and its title is The Three Philosophers. In it, we see three men in a quiet, wooded landscape, close to the dark mouth of a cave. One is old, with a long white beard and heavy robes. One is middle-aged, dressed in Eastern clothing and wearing a turban. And the third is young, seated on a rock, holding a pair of measuring instruments and staring intently into the shadows of the cave as if trying to measure something we cannot see. In the distance, a small town rests beneath a mountain range lit by a strange, fading light. It looks, at first glance, like a simple scene of three men in nature. But this painting is considered one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in all of Renaissance art. Because after more than 500 years of study, nobody, not historians, not curators, not the greatest experts on Renaissance painting, can say with certainty who these three men actually are. The painting was made by Giorgione, one of the most fascinating and frustrating figures in the history of Venetian art. Fascinating, because of the extraordinary quality and poetry of his work. Frustrating, because we know almost nothing about him. Giorgione trained in the workshop of Giovanni Bellini, one of the great masters of Venice, and quickly developed a style so soft, so atmospheric, and so emotionally rich that it influenced an entire generation, including the young Titian. But Giorgione never signed his paintings, rarely documented his commissions, and died suddenly in his early 30s, most likely a victim of the plague that swept through Venice in 1510. Because of this, only a small handful of paintings can be attributed to him with real confidence. The Three Philosophers is one of them, and it is believed to be among the very last things he ever painted. The work was commissioned by Taddeo Contarini, a wealthy Venetian merchant with a deep fascination for alchemy and hidden knowledge. Contarini didn't collect ordinary religious scenes. He collected paintings full of symbols, secrets, and philosophical puzzles, and this one may be the most puzzling of them all. In fact, we don't even know the painting's original title. The name The Three Philosophers comes from a Venetian writer named Marcantonio Michiel, who saw the painting in Contarini's house in 1525 and simply described it in his notes as Three Philosophers in a Landscape. And here is the strange part. Michiel was writing only about 15 years after the painting was finished, in the same city where it was made, and even he did not seem to know who the three men were supposed to represent. If the mystery was already unsolved for the people who lived closest to it, imagine how much has been lost to us over 5 centuries. So who are they? Over the years, art historians have proposed an entire list of possibilities, and almost none of them agree. Some believe the three men are the Three Magi from the Christian nativity story, caught in the moment before they follow the star to Bethlehem, a theory supported by an old museum catalogue from 1783, which actually labelled the painting Three Magi. Others argue they represent 3 stages in the history of human knowledge: the old man as classical Greek philosophy, the man in the turban as the Islamic scholars who preserved and translated that philosophy during the Middle Ages, and the young man as the Renaissance mind that inherited it all and pushed it forward. Still, others see the three as astronomers or surveyors caught in the act of observing the heavens or measuring the earth, which would explain the compass and the set square in the young man's hands. There is even a theory that they are Pythagoras and his 2 teachers, or that the entire scene is meant to evoke Plato's cave, with the men standing at the edge of ignorance, waiting for someone to step into the light. Every one of these readings fits some detail of the painting. None of them fits all of it. What makes this even more remarkable is that Giorgione himself seems to have kept changing his mind. Modern museums have used X-ray and infrared imaging to look beneath the surface of the paint, revealing what conservators call pentimenti, the ghostly traces of an artist's earlier decisions painted over and hidden from view. And beneath the surface of the Three Philosophers, they found something extraordinary. The old man on the right was not always dressed the way we see him now. In an earlier version of the painting, he wore an elaborate headpiece topped with what looks like a solar disk, a detail that some scholars connect to royal or even divine imagery, before Giorgione painted over it and replaced it with the simple hood we see today. In other words, Giorgione didn't just paint a mystery. He physically buried an earlier version of it, layer by layer, underneath the one we're allowed to see. Whatever these three men were originally meant to represent, Giorgione seems to have deliberately obscured it and took the final answer with him to his grave. And that grave came far too soon. Giorgione is believed to have died before the Three Philosophers was fully finished, and tradition holds that the final touches were completed by another Venetian painter, Sebastiano del Piombo, who had trained alongside him. So even the authorship of this painting carries its own quiet uncertainty. We are not entirely sure who finished it, and we are not sure what it was ever meant to depict. It is, in every sense, a painting built on layers of not knowing. This is not the only time Giorgione did this to us. His most famous painting, known simply as The Tempest, shows a soldier and a nursing woman in a landscape under a lightning-streaked sky, and to this day nobody agrees on what is happening in that picture either. Art historians have started to describe Giorgione as the great master of what they call the hidden subject, an artist who seemed to enjoy giving viewers just enough information to become obsessed while withholding the one detail that would let them stop wondering. In an era when most paintings were meant to instruct, to tell a clear biblical or mythological story at a glance, Giorgione was doing something almost rebellious. He was painting silence. He was painting a question instead of an answer. Personally, I think that not knowing is exactly what makes the three philosophers so powerful even 500 years later. Look at the composition again. 3 generations, 3 cultures, 3 types of knowledge, all standing together at the edge of a dark cave, on the border between the world they can measure and the world they cannot. Whether they are kings, philosophers, astronomers, or something we haven't even guessed yet, the painting is fundamentally about the act of searching for understanding in the presence of the unknown. And in that sense, every single one of us, staring at this painting and trying to figure out what it means, is doing exactly what the 3 men inside it are doing. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I would love to hear your own theory in the comments. Who do you think these 3 men really are?